Hello. I hope you guys are out there. We've actually been having some troubles with the internet in this area. So, first of all, greetings and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And I say that because I see that we have people from pretty much all over the world. We have some folks from various parts of the United States, from the UK, from South Africa, and Israel, of course. And we even have a couple of folks here from South Korea, and it's very early in the morning there. So I thank you all for coming and joining us today. Okay, a couple of housekeeping notes. First of all, because we are having, as I said, some technical issues, let me just stress that if we get disconnected for some whatever reason, right underneath the screen is a hold it. I just got a note about this. Okay, let's try this again. Hang on one second, everybody. Okay, I hope you can see me now. This is actually a new software platform we're using, webinar platform. So we're still getting used to it. And anyway, getting back to our housekeeping stuff. Number one, if anything, if there's any challenges on the bottom right hand, right below the screen there, it should say connection troubles, reconnect. Just reconnect that again if for some reason something happens. The second thing is we will not be using the chat screen today, so you can just put it to the side. But we are using, if you scroll down to the bottom, you will see where it says questions. And if you have any problems, challenges, you're not hearing me or anything, please feel free to put a note there. But most important, throughout this webinar, if you have any questions at any time, please jot them down there. And at the end of the webinar, I'll leave plenty of time for questions and we'll get to them. Let's see. Was there anything else? Yes. The most important thing is this. Obviously, this is a virtual meeting, a virtual webinar, and there are a lot of pros and cons to virtual. And especially in the times we live in right now, it is a literal godsend that we have this technology. But at the same time, there is a con. And the con is that we don't take it as seriously as if we were going to a live meeting, especially for flying there, investing the money to spend the night. And we just don't give this our fullest attention. So I would ask you, I would really challenge you even to take this very seriously. You've invested an hour of your very valuable time to be here with us today. Make it a valuable hour. Put away all the distractions. Close your office door, turn off your cell phone, do whatever it takes because I promise you that if you will take this next hour seriously, you will learn something that can literally change your life. Okay, so let's move on. And my question I usually ask folks at this point is, why are you here? Again, as I said, you have taken time out of your life, out of your busy schedule to be here with us today. And there has to be a reason. And if there's no reason, then you really shouldn't be here because your time is too valuable. People don't realize this, but the most valuable commodity there is your time. Now, we can put a different value on an individual's time, but it doesn't matter. For you, your time is the most valuable commodity you have. It can never be replaced. Unlike money, time is finite. The time that you have is finite. Money is infinite. There's plenty of money around for everybody, but you have only so much time. Use it wisely. So the question is then, why are you here? Well, I want to start by saying something that I'm going to talk a little bit later about what I call the 80-20% club. Now, what is the 80-20% club? You've all heard those terms. For instance, 20% of the people control 80% of the wealth. 20% of the people make 80% of the money, et cetera, et cetera. And we can use it in many different ways, but it more or less works. The 80% represents the majority of the people out there, your friends, your neighbors, your siblings, your parents, what have you. 80% is the majority. 20% is the minority. But the 20%, they're the rock stars. They're the rainmakers in anything, not just in business. 20% of the teachers you had in school were the good teachers. If you're a teacher, 20% of your students are the good students. It's just the way it works. Now, I call those 20% diamonds. So if you're a diamond, you're in the right place. Now, being a diamond, though, there are all types of diamonds. There are really expensive polished diamonds. And then there are what's called factory, I forget what they're actually called, something about factory diamonds or industrial diamonds, excuse me, which cost a lot less than a fine diamond. But even before a diamond becomes a diamond, it starts out as a piece of coal. So I'm here to tell you, I don't care if you're already a diamond or you're a piece of coal wanting to be a diamond. As long as you want to be part of this club, part of this 20% club, you're in the right place. If not, I urge you, spend more time with your family or your job or do something else. Don't even go any further with this webinar. Okay? I'm hoping these slides are working. Again, if you don't see me moving slides, which I just did, please let me know. So, if you're a diamond, then you're here to learn something. You're looking for something that will help you succeed in your life. Again, we're here to talk about business, but it doesn't matter. A diamond is always looking to learn something. What can I learn to help me get to the next level? How can I learn the secrets of whatever? In other words, you are asking yourself, what's in it for me? That is a very, very powerful sentence. I want you to take a moment and even say it to yourself. Nobody sees you here. I'm the only one who's being seen. You can be in your underwear. Nobody knows. Nobody cares. Say out loud, what's in it for me? It's nothing to be embarrassed about, but that's why you're here. You wanted something that's in it for you. And that's the bottom line. Everybody wants to know what's in it for me. If you will learn this sentence and let it resonate, it will already start you on the next level. Because it's not only about you saying, what's in it for me? It's about the people you deal with, your customers, your clients, your boss, your kids, your parents. The list goes on and on. Everybody says, what's in it for me? So if you can answer for them, what's in it for them, you're on your way to success and prosperity. So if anything you take away from today's webinar, let it be this acronym, WIIFM. What's in it for me? The most important word you ever need to remember in everything you do. I can't emphasize this enough, how important this is, that you understand that when you want to do something or you're thinking of something, ask yourself, what's in it for me? When you're dealing with somebody else, realize that they are asking themselves, what's in it for them? If you can give them that answer, you are truly on your way to some success. Now, we have a bunch of people here, as I said, from all over the world. Some of you I may have passed across paths with. Others of you, I have no idea who you are. I hope to get to know you, but today I have no idea who you are. Probably the one thing that brought all of you here today was the title of this webinar, Closing Your Next Deal in One Call, Even During a Pandemic. That's what got you. That's what lit your button. You want to know something in that sentence. Now, actually, it's one sentence, but it's really two subjects. The first is closing your next deal in one call. In other words, closing a business deal, closing a sale in one call. And the second is even during a pandemic. And obviously, that's where we are today. Everybody's more or less in the same boat. Thank God we seem to be slowly getting out of it, but we're going to feel this ripple effect for a while, and it's certainly going to change the way we do business. So it's very important that we know how to do business, whether we're in front of a customer, or we're talking to them on the phone, or we're doing something virtual as we're doing right now. So let's start with a basic question. What's a one call close? Well, a one call close is pretty simple. It's closing a deal in one visit. Again, doesn't matter if it's on the phone, virtual, in person, doesn't matter. What represents closing a deal? Well, for everybody, it's a little bit different, but you guys all know what it takes for you to close a sale. What defines a closed sale? Whether it's getting paid in cash or credit card or a check or getting a purchase order or a signed contract, whatever it is. I'm not going to get into it because you know what it takes to close a deal in one close. Now, let me take a moment and explain what is not a one call close. Basically, if you've had the opportunity to make a presentation of your service or your product to a prospect and they are a qualified buyer and you've shown them your package and you've quoted them a price and you leave that meeting without a deal, you no longer qualify for a one call close. There are no excuses. It doesn't matter if the prospect says, I really want it, but I need to think on it. I need to pray on it. I need to speak to my partner. I need this. I need that. If you've blown it, if you've shown your cards, the game is over. You no longer have a one call close. I'm not going to say that you cannot eventually close the deal, but your chances have gone down considerably. And we'll talk more about that in just a couple of minutes. So, a question I'm asked quite a bit is, can anything be one call closed? Well, there are no absolutes in life. So, I would answer the question with yes and no. Obviously, that doesn't tell you anything. So, let me clarify. Theoretically, anything can be one call closed. What does this mean? It can be one call closed if you have a qualified buyer or buyers in front of you. And I also want to say this, and this is very important. And any of you who have read my book called The Art of the One Call Close will have learned a little bit about my background, what I've sold. I've been in sales of one form or another for many, many years. I started out as a salesman selling door to door cold calling, and I've done everything along the lines in sales up to being and including a CEO of a major company. The whole idea of a one call close is, first of all, having the qualified buyer or buyer in front of you or buyers in front of you. And there are a number of things that qualify a buyer, but the most important thing is that they can literally or virtually sign a check. In other words, they can make the decision. So many times when you do a call, it's not really going to be sold in one call. The presentation will be one visit, and that's when we expect to make the deal. But sometimes you may have to spend some time doing your homework. So when you eventually go in for that meeting, you will have all your ducks in a row. You will have made sure that all the decision makers are present, and then you will make your presentation. People make decisions instantaneously. By the end of this webinar, you will know whether you like me or not, whether I know what I'm talking about or not, whether you want to use me in the future or you don't, whether you want to buy my book or not. You will know. Now, if I ask you, you may tell me, I'm not sure, maybe, I have to think about it. But in your heart, you will know yes or no. I buy what this guy is saying. We have been raised in a culture where we are afraid to give a decision. Now, when I say decision, it could be no. No is a valid answer. as long as it's a qualified no. Most people will not give you a no. In fact, it's harder for most people to say no than say yes. And maybe it's because they don't want to hurt our feelings or they're scared or whatever. But the bottom line is we are born and raised to give you a knee jerk response. I need to think about it or something such as that. So, in most cases, if you have the qualified buyer or buyers in front of you, they have made a decision, yes or no. Both of them are great. Your job is just to get them to verbalize that decision. Now, there are times, though, that a one call close is not possible. And when one of the times that comes to mind is if you are in a scenario where it just is doesn't work that way. For instance, let's assume you work for Airbus and you want to sell a fleet of 747s or jets for that matter, some kind of a combat jet to the United States Air Force. Well, you're not going to meet with the president or the chief of staff and walk out in an hour or two with a signed deal. It just doesn't work that way. There is a process you have to go through. You have to meet with one person or one committee, sell them, and move your way up until you close the deal. So in a case like that, we don't expect to walk out with a check, but we do expect to walk out with a decision. So if the first step of my completing the sale is I have to sell Mr. John Smith and I have to get his signature to go up the corporate ladder, that is a one call close for me. If I don't get his write off, his sign off, excuse me, in that one call close, then I am not a one call closer. So most of the time we can walk in and walk out with a deal, and there are times when we can't. But at any rate, what I can teach you and will be teaching you is not only how to literally walk in and out and get a deal, but even at the worst scenario, I can cut your closing ratio by at least 50%, which, if you think about the numbers, adds up to a lot of money for you. Okay. So at this point, let me stop and say that what I'm about to share with you is not rocket scientist. It's pretty simple stuff. It will take time to sink in, to learn some of the nuances, but it's very simple. And you need to keep it simple and just go along with it. I've been doing this for many, many years. I've worked with some of the best salespeople and business people ever around. I had a mentor by the name of Zig Ziglar who was a master salesman. And what I have done in my mythology is I have gathered all these different experts together and I've come up with a very simple way to walk in and out with a sale. Now, I also want to say something which people often say to me. They say, Freddie, I believe you. I know certain things can definitely be closed in one call, but you don't understand. What I sell is a high ticket item. Well, let me tell you something. Again, if you've read my book, you know what I'm talking about. I've sold things which cost $5 and $500, and I've sold things that sold in the six figures. It doesn't make a difference. In fact, I will tell you from my experience, many times it's easier to sell something in one call in the five and six figures than in the one and two and three figures. So it doesn't matter what you're selling. It doesn't matter what the product or service is. It's just a matter of walking in and knowing you're there for a yes or a no. So, what are the secrets to being a one call closer? Because everybody's looking for a secret. I'm often asked, Freddie, what are your secrets? What are the secrets of success? One of the most famous book in the past few years was The Secret. People love secrets. Well, it's not really a secret. As I said, it's pretty simple. But simple stuff seems to be the hardest for most people. People seem to love complicated stuff. They want to make things harder than it is. So again, I can't empathize enough. Let's keep it simple. All right. So let's look at what are the secrets to being a one call closer. Number one, being able to think out of the box. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But that is something, it's become sort of a cliche now. Everybody talks about out of the box thinking. But again, most people are not. The 80% are not out of the box thinkers, and not even all the 20% are. But I can tell you this, if you're an out of the box thinker, you're way ahead of your neighbor down the street. And we can teach you more about being an out of the box thinker. But more than anything else, to be an out of the box thinker, you have to make a decision to be an out of the box thinker. Again, we'll talk about that in a moment. Know how to have a conversation. Seems simple enough. How can you not know how to have a conversation, especially if you're in business or sales? Now, I can teach people how to have a conversation, but most people don't need to learn how to have a conversation because that's not their problem. They know how to have a conversation. What their problem is, they're simply scared. They're scared out of their wits. One thing that never ceases to amaze me, most of my business is with the corporate world, either corporation, associations, but most of it is with corporations that bring me in to do training. And many times I'm asked to train younger people. I think they're called Generation X. I don't know the difference between the XYZ, but they're basically in their late 20s, early 30s. And so many times, especially when it comes to the men I'm talking to, so many of them are suave, debonair, and they can walk into literally almost every bar and up to almost any woman and chat them up, and they have no problem and they feel comfortable, and everything is really, really good. The next day, they come to the office, they pick up the phone to call a prospect, and they freeze. They can't move. Now you can't tell me these guys don't know how to have a conversation. Of course, they know how to have a conversation. They're just scared. So part of what we can do is we can help you a learn how to have a conversation, but more important, overcome that fear. And one of the best ways to overcome that fear is number 3 on the list, to like yourself. Now this seems like a no-brainer. Of course you have to like yourself. Well, I have a little secret for you guys. Most people don't like themselves. Most people like you, but they don't like themselves. They won't tell you that. In fact, they'll tell you the opposite. I don't like you, but I love myself. Not true. Most people don't like themselves. Very few of us were born that way. I'd say 20% are born that way. I was not born that way. In fact, for many years, I didn't even realize it, but I really didn't like myself. And because I didn't like myself, I had a really hard time. I hated what I was doing. Even though I was making lots of money, I really didn't enjoy sales. Why? Because I didn't like what I was doing. I didn't like myself. Till one day I fell in love with myself. And not only did I fall in love with myself, I realized that my profession is actually the best profession out there. Because what is my profession? My profession is helping people. Right now, I am helping you guys out there get what it is you want. That's what a sales professional does. A sales professional doesn't try to convince people to take something they don't want, doesn't try to shove something down their throat, doesn't try to cheat, doesn't try to con them. A professional salesperson is going to help you get what you want. Now, sometimes we have to educate you on our product and service so you can appreciate what it is that will give you what you want. But that's what we are. We are a dream builder and an educator. And part of being that is being professional. Being a professional. Again, this is very simple stuff. And most of you guys probably have one, two, three, four, even all of this stuff. But this is still the ingredients you need to be successful in life, whether it's in sales, business, or whatever, because becoming a successful one call closer will help you in every aspect of life. Because all a one call closer is about is a person who knows to have a conversation with another person and get a direct answer. If I ask you a question, if I'm asking you if you'd like to go out with me on a date, I don't want to hear anything but yes or no. Obviously, I'd rather hear yes, but a no is good too because I know where I stand. The worst thing in anything is these maybes. Maybes are killers. They're stress builders. Nobody wants a maybe. And that's what a one call closer does. Last, but certainly not least, a one call closer needs to know when to shut up and listen. So let's talk a little more about thinking out of the box. What is it? Well, thinking out of the box is a whole lesson in itself, and we can cover that another time if you'd like. But right now, I can basically tell you that thinking out of the box is not for most people. Because one of the best way to know if you're an out of the box thinker, or if you're saying to yourself, I have a challenge here and I need to think out of the box. What do I do? Well, what you do is you first ask yourself, what's everybody else going to do? In other words, think about, to whatever your challenge is, what would most people do? And guess what? In most cases, to the opposite. That's what thinking out of the box is. It's somebody who's willing to go a little bit different, who's willing to stretch a little bit and go out of their comfort zone. It's not easy, and many people will not do it, but it gets easier and easier. I am now a professional out of the box thinker. I don't know how to live other than being an out of the box thinker. And that's part of why I love my life, because I'm not confined to the norms of society. Now, look at me. I'm not wearing 15 tattoos and an earring in my nose. I am not an anti anything, but I'm happy because I'm doing what I think is right and what I think is the way to go. And I'm very successful because my clients appreciate that. Now, this brings me to what I was referring to before, which is the 80/20 club. We talked before about being a diamond. Well, being a diamond means that you're part of the 20% club. And just to reinforce it, all of you guys on this webinar today are professionals. You've all heard the 80/20 rule used in various forms. I don't think I have to elaborate anymore. Now, the only question is, are you in the 80% club or the 20% club? Now, there's no shame in being in the 80% club. Just like in the 20% club, most people are very nice, good people in the 80% club. It's not a question of being smarter, being funnier, being better, being politer. It's nothing like that. A 20% club member simply wants to make a difference, wants to be a rainmaker, wants to leave this world and say, I really, really made my mark. I made a difference. And if you choose to remain in the 80% club, more power to you. That is fantastic. But right now, I'm here to tell you this is simply a choice. We're going through very interesting times right now. And I speak to many, many people, and I see all the different reactions. But again, even though there are many reactions, they can be divided into the 80/20. And what I find is the 80% are people who are basically whiners. They're scared. And when I say whining, I don't mean, again, there's anything wrong with them, but they're scared out of their wits. They're either waiting for the government to come bail them out, they're looking for loans, they're scrounging everywhere. They don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And the 20% are saying either it's going to be okay, I'll figure it out. And by the way, it doesn't mean that the 20% is not struggling too. It doesn't mean that the 20% is not looking to take a loan here or there. But the 20% definitely sees tomorrow. And I would say, let's even divide that and say there's a 10%. And the 10% actually sees the opportunity in this. And there are a lot of opportunities going on now. There are opportunities for people who just happen to be in the right place at the right time. For instance, the webinar providers, this Webinar Ninja, Zoom, WebEx, all these different, they're in the right place at the right time. More power to them. Other people, how about the people who make the masks? Wow, what a bonanza for them. Okay, more power to them. If you're in that business, you're doing great. But you know how many people, I just the other day heard about a guy, I think he's in New York, I don't know. He was in the construction business, or maybe in New Jersey. He was in construction business. He had this great business. All of a sudden, the business was about to go bankrupt because of the pandemic. He turned his company overnight into a disinfectant company. All right, this guy, it's not rocket science. He didn't do anything. Wow, he invented the Nobel. He invented the atom, and he's getting the Nobel Peace Prize. He just was not going to panic. He was a member of the 20% club, and he thought out of the box. So there's a lot of opportunity for us here. There are a lot of people who aren't making the sales calls now, or feel nobody's going to buy in this thing. I have a client who is I can't mention the name of the car company, but he works for one of the major car companies. They're doing a lot of sales because they're doing a lot of their sales online. I could never even imagine buying a car online, but you know how much business they're doing right now? I have a client who's a very successful realtor. Nobody's working in the realty business today. Everybody's saying there's nothing to do. They're doing so much business online. I don't know if they're doing more business than they did before, but they certainly aren't losing. So there's opportunity out there. And if you can make it, as Frank Sinatra said, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. If you can do well in these times, you will always, always be successful. So make that choice right now where you're going to be. Okay. Everybody says, okay, this is all nice, but where's the beef? As Wendy said, where's the beef? Well, I'm about to show you the beef. Now, the beef is a very simple 3-step plan, but I had to take approximately 30 minutes to get to this point because this is so simple. But unless you understand the methodology behind it, unless you have the backbone, unless you have the resources to be a one call closer, I could teach you this simple 3-step plan from today till next year. It won't make one bit of difference. Most people will not follow this plan. They're either scared, or it's too simple, or they're convinced it won't work. I don't know how many people would tell me, as I am making loads of money selling banks and credit unions throughout North America, my services, and walking out with $100,000 checks after a 3-hour meeting, all my friends are telling me, no, it's impossible. I have the check in hand. They're still telling me it's impossible. This is very possible, doable. I've been doing it for many years. Now, I'm going to stop here for a moment and give myself a little pitch because, like you guys, I'm a businessman. My service is my methodology, my IP, my intellectual property. In other words, what I've developed. And this is stuff I share with other people like you. And I am sharing this with you today, yes, because I want to help you, but WIIFM, what's in it for me? What's in it for me is I am hoping that you guys will either spread the word, buy my book, take my course. That's what I'm hoping for. You don't have to. And what I offered you, and I hope that you will agree at the end that I'm giving you, is I am giving you a workshop where today, at no cost, you can take something and tomorrow make it work for you. But I will tell you this. I'm going to share with you the simple 3-step plan now. But if you really want to get into the meat of it, I do have an exciting, attractive offer for you when we finish. So let's talk about the simple 3-step plan. Very simple. Open, middle, close. What can be more simpler than that, correct? Okay, so what's the open? What's the open and what it isn't? What the open isn't is it's not It's not breaking the ice. That's what 80% do. We, one call closers, we don't break the ice. We don't have small chit chat. We don't talk about the weather. That's not what we care about. Okay? We care about one thing, and that is you. Do you care about the weather? Do you care that it happens that here I am and I don't know, it's crazy weather for us here right now, that in the middle of May we're having a thunderstorm? That's crazy for us here, but that's the weather. Do you really care? No. And I don't care what the weather is where you are. You want to know what's in it for you, and I want to know what's in it for me. So let's not break the ice. Let's get right into what we need to get into. So, what are we getting into? We're getting into something called the PowerPoint. Now, the PowerPoint is not the PowerPoint I'm showing you here. A PowerPoint is something each and every one of us have, and it is either a burning desire or a pain point. Now, they can be one and the same, they can be related, they can be totally different. Regardless, a PowerPoint is something that is affecting you right now. It's not something that affected you yesterday or tomorrow. It could have affected you yesterday as well as today, and it may affect you tomorrow as well as today. But what we're looking at, what is your PowerPoint right now? If I was one on one with any of you guys out there, that would be the first thing I would have done after our introductions is I would have been able to ask you the probing questions and find out in a very polite, nonchalant way, which you wouldn't even realize what's going on, is I'd find out what your PowerPoint is. What is your burning desire, your absolute burning desire? What is something you really, really want? Or what's your pain point? Now, pain points don't have to be just about business or burning desires. I have a client who sells to the Fortune 500 companies. And we were talking one day, and he was talking to me about selling XYZ company. And I said to him, "You're not selling XYZ company. You're selling John Smith. XYZ company is just paper, it's mortar and bricks, it's a rock. You're not selling to them. You're selling to whoever that person or persons are in front of you. Solve their PowerPoint. Of course, their PowerPoint is going to help the company. But at the end of the day, that's what they care about. That's going to make them sign the check or sign the contract, solving their PowerPoint. So that's what the open is all about, is getting to the person's PowerPoint in front of you. That's all it's about. We do nothing else during the open than discover their PowerPoint. I also want to say one other thing before I go any further. In traditional sales, and I'm asked this all the time, is people always say, teach me a good closing technique. Now, I could write a book on closing techniques. I know them all. I know the puppy close, the choice close, the Benjamin Franklin close. I know them all. And some of them are really good. And if you ask me, love to teach you. But these people are under the misconception that the closing is the most important and also the hardest part of a sale. I'm here to tell you that the open is the most important part of the sale. If you do this correctly, the close will never be easier. It will cut like butter. So this is really important. Now we go on to the middle. Now we've got the PowerPoint, we go to the middle. What is the middle? Well, as it says on the screen, the 80% call it a sales presentation, the 20% call it a solution. Nobody cares about your product or service. I hate to break it to you. Nobody gives a darn. Nobody cares that your drill bit, that thing that goes into a drill that you drill a hole into something. Nobody cares that your drill bit is made of titanium steel. Nobody cares that it's made by native craftsmen in the deep, darkest jungles of the Amazon River. Nobody gives a rip. You know what people want to know? Will it drill a hole in my wall or whatever I'm trying to drill in? So people don't want your drill bits, they want your holes. End of story. But the 80% spends all their time and focus on trying to convince you to buy the drill or the drill bit, etc. The 20% works on the whole, the solution. That's why the open is so important, because how can you sell anybody anything unless you know what it is they really want? Now, if somebody walks into your hardware store and says, "Sell me a drill," then you're not really a sales professional. You're a clerk. Good job, good guys, but that you shouldn't be here because that's really not what it's about. It's about education, but you can't educate somebody until you understand what their personal challenges. So the middle is very easy. I know this is going to be so hard for so many of you to believe, but you know how many times I have actually made sales and the client doesn't even fully comprehend what I sold them because they didn't buy my product or service, they bought my solution. And I realize this is an extreme. I'm really good at what I do, but it's the concept. The concept is if you learn to stop selling products and services and sell solutions, you'll see your sales wow overnight. Okay? One final example. You're speaking to somebody about their PowerPoint, and all they're doing is they're scratching like this all over. And you discover, you know what the PowerPoint is? They got bed bugs. They're being eaten up alive by bed bugs. Now, if that person has a bed bug problem, when do you think he wants to solve it? You think he wants to think about it? You think he wants to double check around? He wants it now. If you can come up with a solution, a mattress, an exterminator, I don't know what the solution would be, but if you could find a solution now, he wants it now. That's what a solution does. It gives them their burning desire or burning pain point. It relieves it now. If you do all this, the close is the easiest thing because at this point, the client, the prospect, they already made the decision. They know you have the solution. They want the solution. They want the hole in the wall. They want their bed bugs taken care of. Whatever it is you're going to solve for them, they're convinced you're going to do it. But with all that being said, and even though you've asked them numerous times throughout your presentation, if I can today solve your problem of bed bugs, would you be ready to go ahead today? If I can show you a way to get on that dream vacation next summer by investing XYZ over the next few months, would you want to get started today? They've been saying yes if you've done your job throughout your presentation. But now they say, I need to think about it. Do you really think they need to think about it? No. They know they want it or they know they don't want it. But getting that yes or no is always tough for them. Well, I always 20% of the time get a yes right off the bat. 20% of the time. How many of you get a yes right off the bat? No closing, nothing. Just yes, 20%. Okay? So I have to do a little bit of work for the other 80%. And I don't sell everybody because nobody does. So let's say I only close 50% more. So let's say my closing ratio is 70%. Pretty darn good. Okay? So how do I get that other 50%? I just don't leave until I've gotten a qualified yes or no. And they have lots of excuses. If you've been in sales any length of time, you know how many excuses are out there. Guess what? The vast majority of the time, there's only one real excuse. You know what that is? Money. That's all the excuse is. It's always about money. When I say always, there's no absolutes, but I would say 90% of the time it's about money. And money is the best objection ever because money is a tangible. Money means that they want your product or service. It's just a question of solving it. If they tell you, I don't trust you, it's your credibility, that's a big problem. If they tell you, I really don't need it, then you shouldn't have been there this long to begin with. You should have known that. If it's money, you're in a great shape. So let's finish this up. Let me show you how it works. Okay, we go with the open, and the open is finding your PowerPoint. what is it that you want? What is it that you really want? What can I solve for you today? What solution can I give you today? How can I make your life better today? Once I figure that out, I can go on to the middle. And in the middle, all I have to do is show you a solution, show you how my solution can help you either solve the burning, excuse me, the pain point, or get the burning desire. That's all I have to do. If I've done that, and of course there are some nuances to this, but if I've done that, then I can go to the close, and that's it. I never, and again, one in a million, but I rarely, ever would have a chargeback or have a buyer's remorse or anything, because I help people. I don't sell people just for the sake of selling. I can't remember, certainly in the last 10 years, any customer or client of mine who ever was dissatisfied with my product or service. And that's why I'm really happy. And life is too short to miss out on being really happy. Okay. So before I go into answer your questions, and I see we have a few questions here, I will go back to my original question to you. What's in it for me? In other words, now we're talking about you. I've shared with you, I think, enough that if you do nothing else, if we don't speak again, if nothing, you can use the little I've shared with you today to go out tomorrow, not next week, not next month, tomorrow, and make a difference in your business life. But I'd like to help you further. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to offer you a chance at a very inexpensive investment to teach you everything from A to Z in what I've shared with you now. And what we're doing for the first time, because up until now, vast majority of my work has been with organizations, with corporations, but we are going to do a public workshop, a virtual public workshop over a 4-week period. And over this 4-week period, we will go into detail about everything that we've discussed today. And at the end of that 4-week period, I'm telling you right now, if you can't go out and make a call and close a deal in one call, or at the very least, cut your closing cycle in half, then one of us has done something dreadfully wrong. So, for just $198, all inclusive, you will receive for these 4-week period, you will receive, as I said, 4 weekly sessions in which this will be a very small, intimate group. It will be done in a classroom atmosphere so we can interact. We will also role play. We will do things so you can walk out after every weekly session and see the difference. You'll get study sheets and exercises. Again, we will have a question and answer. Most important is during this 4-week period, we will provide you with unlimited email support. So if anytime you have questions, shoot us an email. If you miss a session for whatever reason, no problem. You play the replay. If you have questions about the session you missed, no problem. Just shoot us an email. So again, I'm not going to give you this whole song and dance about this is worth $1,000, $2,000, giving you $500 for the next 24 hours. I'm not going to give you any of that. It's a no-brainer. $198. I don't know what your product or service is, but think about it. If I can get you one more deal in the next 60 days, will you make your money back? It is a no-brainer. The only thing I will tell you, it is time limited. It's time limited because we're limiting this to very few seats. There's no way that I can personally give you this kind of a workshop if I have a bunch of people. So I urge you to sign up today. Below, you will see where you have the questions. You'll also see something that says offers, feel free to click on that link there and you can register right now. Okay, now, as I said, I'd love to answer any questions you have. So let's see what we have here. Okay, let me go to the questions. Okay. The truth is, we have a few Moshes, so I'm not sure which Moshe it is. And he just makes a comment, Freddie, you really have me smiling. This is exactly me. And I don't know when to shut up, whether verbally or in writing. So all I can tell you is this, Moshe. That's part of what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be teaching you when to shut up. In this particular case, um, obviously I had to do 100% of the talking. When I make a presentation, when I sell, believe it or not, I don't do more than 20% of the talking. Again, the 80-20% club. The key is you need to learn to shut up. And if you know how to ask the probing questions, your customer, your client, your prospect will tell you exactly what it takes to sell him. Okay. Helen says, will you be sharing actual steps and language to use to move the sales process forward in an effective way? Absolutely, Helen. That is exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be going step by step. Each week, we will be promoting, we will be talking about a different section, the open, middle, close, each time. And we're going to go through exact ways of doing it, the language to use, the clues to pick up, everything and anything you need. And yeah, I think that pretty much sums that up. Okay. Margot says, how many times in a meeting do you suggest trying to close? At some stage, it's surely a problem to continue, and one should give up. Wow, Margot, that is a really interesting and good question. Um, Off the top of my head, I would say you don't stop until you get a yes. But the answer really isn't that. The answer would be I don't stop until I've got a qualified answer. In other words, if the answer is no and it's a real no, that's good enough for me. So my rule is I don't give up until I get a qualified yes or a no, or they physically throw me out or cut me off. And I know that sounds rough, but until they tell me go away, it means they don't want me to go away. They want me to actually convince them. I don't know about you, but I've had many times in my life as a buyer where I bought something and I really wanted it, but I didn't have the guts to make the decision. And it was a good salesperson who helped me make the decision. Now, I just want to take a moment. It's something I relate in my book as well. But I want to take a moment and talk about a qualified no and give you a perfect example. Years ago, I had a salesman who was going door to door knock on my door, and he was selling cable television. And he came to my door, he introduced himself, and he started his sales pitch. And I said, stop, don't go any further. I don't own a television. He said, what? You don't own a television? Why not? And I said, it's a time waster. I really don't enjoy having a television. Okay. At the time, this was quite a while ago. I had the television box and I would watch videos of movies that I wanted to watch, but I didn't want a television in my house. Now, there are two ways a smart salesperson would handle that. One is he or she would say, thank you. Perhaps you can refer me to somebody who does have a TV and move on. Or he can qualify my no because maybe I'm pulling his chain and ask me some sort of a question to justify the no. And what would be a good question? He could say, "I understand, Freddie, but let me ask you this: if there was some way I could give you a year free just to try us out. Would you be interested? If I said yes, well, that tells you that I was lying. But if I tell you still no, that's it. It's a qualified no. There's no point in in continuing. Now, this idiot, he he didn't take no for an answer. And what did he do? He spent his valuable time and mine, but I sort of enjoyed it. And he was trying to convince me why I should get television. In other words, he wanted to change something which was a um, a serious position in my life. I'm an Orthodox Jew. Don't try and sell me pork. It just is not worth your while. Theoretically, can you change my mind? Yes. But you know how many pork eaters there are out there? Why the heck would you waste your time on me? But I got friends who are pork eaters. Why don't you just get in my good graces and ask me to recommend you to somebody who eats pork? So that is a qualified no. Most of the time, if you've done your homework, and you are in front of a qualified buyer, you won't receive a qualified no because you will have known way before you got to the end that there is even a possibility that they wouldn't be interested. So, really, what you have is a situation where the person is just afraid to say yes or needs a way to figure out how to do it. Remember, I said it could be about money, and money is a great objection, and we just have to figure out whether it's terms, giving them a discount, doing something, and we can help them. Okay. Margot has another question. Do you offer any kind of guarantee with your course? Well, Margot, um, there are no guarantees in life, but this is so simple. I'm willing to make you a guarantee. I'm willing to guarantee you right now. In fact, anybody who wants to ask me, I'm willing to guarantee them. If you will take my course and you'll follow everything I tell you to do, and you don't see some type of an increase in your sales or your life, and you want your money back, no questions asked. I'll do it. Does that make you happy? Okay. Oh, so now we have another question from Helen. Asks, how do you respond when someone says your solution is too expensive? Okay, well, Helen, you can't be talking about my solution because my solution is the best bargain you're going to get. But when they ask you, is your solution too expensive? It's again, it's not something we have 3 minutes. I can't answer that standing on one leg because I don't know what it is the product or service you're selling. But I will now go back to what is, if the beginning, which is the open, what is their PowerPoint? In other words, take me for a moment. Okay, I'm going to share with you a dream that I have. I have a dream. I've had this dream a long time because when I was very, very young, and I first got introduced to my mentor who passed away, Zig Ziglar. I got introduced to him. I was in the audience at the Superdome in New Orleans in the United States. And I was in a crowd in what was called the bleacher seats of over 50,000 people. And I saw Zig Ziglar. And he got on that stage and he was talking to, as I said, at least 50,000 people. I felt he was talking to me directly. At that moment, I said to myself, one day I want to be on that stage. Now, if you were doing your job right, and again, it depends what product or service you have, and you were able to tell that is one of my burning desires. Well, that would be the direction you need to take. And you would have to show me a solution how whatever it is you do. Now, you could be selling, I don't know, you could be selling mattresses. Now, how the heck would a mattress get me to speak in front of 50,000 people at the Superdome? Well, that's part of your job to figure out. Now, I can think of some things right off the top of my head. If I get a good night's sleep, I'm going to be more successful. Yada, yada, yada. And I could continue with this. Believe me, I could sell myself the mattress in that kind of a situation. If you could show me how to get on that stage, what price wouldn't I be willing to pay? But you're probably focusing on whatever your product or service is rather than the solution. I hope that answers your question. Um, Again, if there are any other questions, please shoot them out now. We're about to go. If anybody has any further questions, please reach out to me either through my website, which is www.rabbifreddy.com. Freddie is spelled Freddy, or my email address is freddie@rabbifreddy.com. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing any and all of you at our upcoming workshop. Have a great day and stay healthy. Bye bye.